If you have been following my activities on overclock.net, which you probably haven't, I've been meaning to build a mini ITX gaming system, which is also water-cooled, or I should have just said water-cooled gaming system in mini ITX form factor. And I've seen a lot of videos that people do it with Phoenix Prodigy, which, you know, it's a logical choice. It's a big case, got a ton of room, you got a lot of options for water cooling, but I thought I'd set myself away from the norm a little bit and go for something a little bit smaller and a little bit more unique. So you see there in the corner, I've got myself a Fractal design node 304 mini ITX chassis. And there it is, naked. I will get to that in a minute, but yes, I had a lot of different cases in my mind, but the Node 304 is kind of like the logical candidate, really. It's just got a weird combination of compartments and stuff, and together you'll see when I'm finished with it that it is and was and will be the only choice for a build like this. It's basically maximizing all the space inside the chassis, and compared to the Phoenix Prodigy, it's much smaller. It doesn't have the carrying handle, but not really needed. Now I'm just gonna go over the parts that I've chosen for this rig. Of course, it's going to be fully water cooled, and for the keen eyes, you could probably have seen that I've already fitted the radiators to the chassis just to test fit. Probably going to take them out to replace the fans. But yeah, so the parts. In the corner we see a GeForce GTX 670, 2GB standard variety. It is the reference design, and it's from EVGA. Well, the reason I chose that part is because the space is sort of limited now. I could have fit a fully fledged GTX 680 in there, but if you see the radiator, the 2x92mm radiator, which is kind of unusual, you can see that, well, I'm gonna go for a push-pull configuration on that particular radiator and probably the other 140 at the back, but a full-length 680 wouldn't have led me. I wouldn't have enough space left to be able to do it. So a reference 670, as you guys know, it's really short, so it was kind of the perfect choice for the job. And let's face it, the overclock about the same, and when you run them clock by clock, 670 versus 680, they're like 5 to 10% difference, which isn't that much, but still. It's a really good value well, I wouldn't say value for money, but it's better value for money. It's better value, period, than the 680. Now, next to that is the Silverstone SFX something or rather, 450 watt, fully modular, 80 plus gold power supply. Now, I should mention that, if you're able to see it, it's the new SFX form factor. Basically, that's smaller than the standard ATX form factor, but I wouldn't worry about it because it does come with a bracket that you can use it in, a normal ATX enclosure. The reason I chose that is because it is tiny. When I take it out of the box for you guys to see, you'll be able to see that it is very small, and that's going to give me more room inside the chassis. I probably would have been fine and would have been able to get away with the normal, I don't know, 150 or 160 millimeter long standard ATX power supply, but I had to have that. Well, I didn't have to, but it gives me more room, more options. For motherboard, I went with top of the curve, basically, or food chain, the Asus PHZ77i Deluxe. So if you guys don't know that motherboard, it has 10 phases for the CPU, and it has its own. The unique thing about it has a vertical daughter board attached to the motherboard to deliver the extra power. Now, I just read a couple of reviews, and not a couple, at least a dozen of every. I know every single Z77 mini ITX motherboard on the market. Gigabyte makes one, MSI, Zotac, ASRock or ASRock, whatever you want to call it. ASRock's more appropriate. Oh, even the EVGA, and the Asus one was the one with you know, the most feature-rich. It was the most feature-rich board with the stuff I want. And you can see I didn't go with the wide-eye edition. I don't really use wide-eye. That's wireless display. It's just I got it for 190 bucks, I think, before tax and shipping. So I think the MSRP for that is like just over 200. So it was reasonable. Oh, let's go to the price for the parts, or how much I paid for them. Oh, today is March 11th, sorry, 2013. And I got that GTX 670 for $350. We're talking Canadian dollars, so you know, we pay 13% tax, which is outrageous in Toronto, or I should say Ontario. But you know, it is what it is. But $350 before tax and all these prices I'm gonna name is just gonna be before tax or shipping. Usually I try to find the best deals that offer free shipping. But anyway, so yeah, $350 for that card, about $90 for the power supply, $190 for the motherboard, and next up, we have Hitachi, or HDST, or as they're known now, Travel Stir. That's a 2.5-inch drive, or laptop drive. That is, if I can get the camera right, 1 terabyte, 7200 RPM, 32 megabyte of cache, and what's the other one? Oh yeah, 6 gigabit per second interface, which not gonna make a whole lot of difference when we're talking mechanical drive. But you know, it's still a nice thing to have. The other option I was going for was a Western Digital Caviar Blue. Or was it Caviar? No, it's not Caviar. Scorpio Blue or something. I've forgotten. I don't know what the 2.5-inch drives are called, but it had a blue in it. No, can't think of it. Yeah, so with the same price, actually a bit more, like $5 more. I got that drive for about 90 bucks. The Western Digital one was, I think, around 195, something like that. But yeah, Scorpio Blue, yeah, I think that's what it was called. Well, it had the same capacity, 1 terabyte, but it came with only 8 megs of cache, and spent out only 5400 RPM. So that HDSD or Hitachi drive has more performance, so it's also better value for money. It's going to be a bit louder, you know, generate more vibration, I suppose, but vibrate more. But you know, it's cheaper and performs better, so I'm not that big of a, you know, I don't care about sound that much, or noise, so it's fine. It's not that big of an issue. Next to that, Samsung 840 Pro, the 256 gigabyte version. Now, if you're into SSDs or know a little bit about them, there are 2 drives on the market right now. I mean, the 2 best drives that are trading blows right about now. One of them is that Samsung drive, the 840 Pro, and the other would be the OCZ Vector. Now, I don't want to call them fanboys, but whatever, gonna say, oh no, well, this is better, Plextor M5 is better, Corsair Neutron GTX is better, and they're all kind of right they're all sort of right, and they're not wrong. They're good drives, but these two, like, if you compare the benchmarks, it's just there's nothing between the two. So they got this. They're about the same price. I'm talking about the 840 Pro and the Vector. They're about the same price. They both offer 5-year warranty. They're both outstanding. This one was more readily available, so I went for the 840 Pro. They're both great drives. Now, next to that is a Silverstone PP05 short cable kit for the SFX line of power supplies. Now, as you can tell, that Note 304 chassis is a really small enclosure, so it's not going to be a lot of room in there, and that short cable kit is going to save my bacon, like literally. I did compare some of the cables with the original, with the one that come with the actual SFX power supply, the 450, and they're about the same length actually, but like SATA connectors and Molex, those are actually shorter. The wires are actually shorter, but like the 24 pin is the same, and there are also a couple of cables I can't use them from the short cable kit, and those are the PCI Express power supply, PCI Express 6-pin connectors basically. So the reason for that is that 450 watt power supply from Silverstone only has a single plug for PCI Express power, and with the original wire it splits into a 6-pin and a 6+2 pin, or 6 and 8 pin, and that's the only available PCI Express plug. I didn't want to use Molex to 6-pin PCI Express. That's too many PCI Express I've said now, but whatever. I didn't want to use Molex to PCI Express converter. You know, those cans, whatever. Yeah, so I couldn't use the converters or adapters. Yeah, that was the word I was looking for. So I couldn't. I didn't want to use the adapters, and so I'm probably gonna end up using the original cable. As you guys know, the 670 comes with two 6-pin power connectors to the APU of, I think, 170 watts, something like that. Not that it's important. And before you say, oh, you know, you're gonna use a 450 watt power supply, that's not enough. Well, the processor I'm pairing with is a 3570K, and yes, they're both going to be overclocked. And no, 450 is more than enough. I'll probably won't come up with, you know, these are not hard fact numbers, but you know, under gaming load, let's say Crisis 3, when, you know, under normal gaming load, even, you know, run any game, at best they're gonna use like 300 watts. That's the worst case scenario. And when we're talking like synthetic benchmark, like something like the Unigine Valley or Heaven, and pair that with Prime 95 FFD tests, it's gonna be going around like, you know, 400 watts. Not gonna saturate the whole thing. So no, 450 is more than enough. And trust me on that. It's just, especially when you got a quality power supply, the 80 plus cool, it's a very proven power supply. It's more than capable. Got enough amps on his 12 volt rail. I've forgotten, 33 something, 36. I'll check later. But yeah, it's more than adequate. Back to the processor. Yeah, it's a 3570K. That's an i5. You know, unlocked obviously. It's very popular. It's kind of budget oriented. The only thing it lacks against its big brother, the i7 3770K, is hyper-threading and 2 megs of cache, which to some people it's a big deal. To me, it isn't, especially for gaming. Not gonna make much difference. In multi-threaded apps, they're about 20 to 30% faster with hyper-threading when they're running clock by clock. You know, if they're running the same clock, so about 20 to 35% faster. But you know, games, it doesn't matter, especially when you overclock them. That thing will go to at least 4.5 gigahertz, hopefully higher, because I'm planning to delete it and replace the internal TIM as I did about a year ago when Ivy Bridge came out. I did make 3 videos of it. They got tons of views. Yeah, so I was the pioneer for that, and that is, same thing's gonna happen to that. And next to that is where the deleting comes from. That's the Cool Laboratory Liquid Pro. That is the best TIM to use if you're planning to remove the IHS, that's the internal heat spreader, from one of those Ivy Bridge CPUs and replace the horrible thermal interface between that and the die. I've used it in my LAN rig, which incidentally, I have a 3770K in it. Now this is going off topic a little bit, but it's still relevant. I run that processor at 1.37 volts, 4.7 gigahertz. I know those are kind of high voltage for an Ivy Bridge chip, especially, you know, 4.7. It's not really good, but it's not a really good chip, so we'll gloss over that. But yeah, I was getting, like, with normal TIM, I think I used MX4 or something. All of them are very close to each other, but I was getting up to 90-95 degrees. I switched to Cool Laboratory. It dropped them just over 70. I was getting like 70-72 degrees under Prime 95 load. I'm talking like 30-minute load. So it's just unbelievable the amount of performance you can gain with that. Like, I should mention that I was reading the manual on that, and you're not supposed to use it on coolers with aluminum base, or aluminium if you're British. Hi to you, little fellas. Well, you might think, oh the heat spread around the CPU. The CPU is aluminum. It's actually not. It's nickel-plated copper, so you don't have to worry about it. And most heat sinks, they have copper base plate. They're also nickel-plated. I've yet to come across a decent quality heatsink that uses aluminum as a base plate. Although one of the ones I came across recently was the Corsair H40, which is the lowest end, only one liquid cooler you can buy that actually has an aluminum base plate. So I would recommend using those in it. And why it's so great is because it's liquid metal, and just like the 1000 from the Terminator movies. Yeah, it's pretty cool, the application and everything. It's quite unique. That's enough talk of Tim. Next to that, well, those are the main parts. Now we're moving to water cooling parts. That is a bracket which I quite don't remember, or I don't quite remember what the name of it is, but what it does is allows you to hook the pump and reservoir combo, whatever you want, directly on top of, or attach it basically to the radiator or fan, and that's 140mm variety. It's pretty useful as I don't have a whole lot of space in the case. I might use that, or the other one. This is also called something that I don't remember. Infinity something. It's basically allows you to adjust it multiple different ways. That is, I think, for 120mm fans. So I might end up using any of those. Those two XSPC boxes. One of them is the water block for the GTX 670s, the XSPC one. It's quite a looker. The other one is the backplate for it. They're completely compatible, so I'm going to use both of them. The other two are empty boxes of the radiators I'm using in the build. One of them is the GTX. God, what is the? Yeah, there we go. Focus. There we go. Yeah, so Hardware Lab GTX something something. You can read. I can't. My eyes are terrible. I said it's gone. Yeah, so that's 184 or 92. Yeah, cell phone. That is lame. So 2 by 92mm. It's, I think, 50mm thick. It's quite interesting radiator, because you never see two 92mm fans next to another, especially not in a place you can mount a radiator to. But yeah, the Note Rayo 4 had two fans just like that. They're a bit offset. They're not like the way I've mounted the radiator to the case is actually I've mounted the radiator to only one fan. The other one, the lines, the screw holes don't line up because the fans are not next to each other. They're kind of spaced. You could also change out those fans for 80mm versions if you really want, but comes standard is 92, so why would you, unless you don't have space. The other radiator is an EK something something. I forgot, I've had that radiator for years. It's a 55mm thick, 140mm radiator, full copper obviously. It's quite a performer if it doesn't fit and blocks the CPU block. I may have to get 120mm in there. I do have a couple of ones as backup, so for that it's what's fitted in there. Might change in the future. The other one is also an Alpha Cool, not also, but it's the third option that I have for mounting the pump to the radiator, and that one's from Alpha Cool. That one's kind of a universal mount. You could mount it to 80, 92, 120, or 140mm fans or radiator, or fans/radiators, and I just bought 3 of them because I didn't know which one I was going to use, which one would be better for the job, more suitable, so they weren't that expensive. Speaking of expensive, I totally forgot to go over the main parts price, but thank you, cell phone. Get to you in a minute, and I will go over the price of each item once I just finish over here. But yeah, that's the Alpha Cool mount. That in that little white box, as most of you water coolers would know, is, and if my camera cooperates, it's a Switftech MCP655D5 pump, and that's a very battle-proven pump. And actually, don't have a lot of things to say about it. So, well, I should mention that I ordered most of the water cooling parts from Performance PCs, and they did have an option for that pump. They offered an option to braid the cables. Unfortunately, when I ordered, I was a bit tired. I overlooked it, so I forgot to order braiding for the cable. I could do something like that myself, but you know, I haven't done braiding all that much. So yeah, the wires are kind of ugly, black and red, or yeah, I think black and red. Yeah, those are the wires. It's just a Molex connector. It also has a pump switch, pump speed switch, 5 different positions on the pump itself, and it's also it's not the standard. The standard version, I think, is only compatible with. I think it's 3/8 tubing, and won't allow you to use any barbs or whatnot. This one's actually threaded. The holes are the intake and out, the inlet and outlet are threaded for G1/4, so you can put whatever fitting you want, whatever size you want. Compression fittings probably is what I'm going to use. So it gives you a lot more options. It's a lot more flexible. And next to that is a mod kit for a D5 pump from, actually I've forgotten who it's from, Bits Power. Yeah, so that's a D5 pump mod kit. Basically allows you to replace the horrible plastic that's on the MCP655 or any other pump that are D5 marked. I've forgotten the rest of them, but 655 is the one that's known best. So that would allow that's that one, I should say. It's the chrome, metallic chrome version. Yeah, chrome is so 80s or 70s. But yeah, it looks really nice. Basically allows you to replace the ring around it, get rid of the ugly, horrible looking plastic bits, and make the pump look much nicer and modern. It's a great pump. 655, again, water coolers know. But yeah, that makes it look fantastic. Once I've installed it, I'll show it to you guys. But for now, let's go back and go over the price for everything I paid. So yeah, 90 to 95 bucks I think for the hard drive. The SSD was like 250. That's kind of a lot even these days. But you know, it's the best performer out there, so it's worth the price. The PP05 short cable kit was about $20, 3570K, I think 220, standard price these days. That one, the water cooling parts all came from USA, specifically from Performance PCs, so check prices there to be 100% sure, but pay $13 for that thermal paste. Oh, by the way, the Liquid Pro or Liquid Ultra is available right now, but they didn't have it in stock, or else I would have ordered those, so I went with the Pro. They're both great. Ultra supposedly drops the temperature even further, but you know, Pro is just fine. Those two brackets, I think they were $20 each. The water block was just under 100, I think 95 bucks. The backplate is another 20. Those radiators, I have no idea. I've had them for a couple of years, and 2-3 years just gathering dust. I think the EK one was like 50 or 40 bucks. The GTX was like 60 to 80 bucks. Don't quote me on that, I don't really remember. The Alpha Cool bracket was, I think, 25 to 30 bucks. The MCP, that one, which is slightly modified to accept fittings of all sorts of shapes and sizes. Well, G/4 threading, 1/4 threading, threading. That one is, or was, I think, $85 to $90, something like that. The mod kit was, I think, on sale for 40 bucks, so I grabbed that one as well. So, God, that's never talked in a video this long. I'm parched, tired. I need to change my diaper. But yeah, that is, well, I know you guys are gonna say, oh, what about memory? What are you gonna use? I haven't really decided on memory and CPU block. Yeah, that was the one missing from this video as well. CPU block, I do have an XSPC Rasa, R-A-S-A. That's a kind of a cheap but effective CPU block, but it's really old now. It's been officially replaced. Well, haven't been replaced, but improved upon by the XSPC Raystorm. I've had a ton of Raystorms, just burnt through all of them. But Rasa is the only one I have. I also have a Danger Dan something full copper block, but that one doesn't have a backplate, so I might end up buying another Raystorm or something else. Raystorm's just, you can't beat the performance for that price. It's like 50 bucks, and it's a fantastic block. Fortunately, I don't have one yet. We'll see. I haven't decided yet. And for the memory, probably gonna use 8 gigs. For Pete's sake. Probably gonna sorry about that. Probably gonna use 8 or 16 gigs. Most likely 8 gigs, because I already have 8 gigs of this 30 nanometer Samsung Wonder RAM, they call them. They're basically, you know, great overclock. It's rated at 1600 megahertz at 1131, but I've got an 8 gigs of that in my land rig, and I've managed to overclock them to 2200 megahertz at 9, 10, 11, 14. That's right, 14 TRES timing. So it's amazing, and for the price, it's just unbelievable. There have been a couple of duplicates out from I think Crucial. They call them Ballistic Sports and something else. They're kind of similar in nature, but I got readily available Samsung memory, so probably gonna end up using those. I mean, if you really want to be the boss, you could get 16 gigs of Corsair Platinum 2400 or something, but memory performance or memory speed and timing isn't important as it used to be back in the like 775 days that you had to tighten up the timings to get better performance in games or application or whatnot. So the emphasis on memory is not that great, so I don't want to blow a whole lot of money on that. And again, as I've said 5 times already, going to use the Samsung most likely until something else comes along or I change my mind. So yeah, that's the whole oh, the price of those memory. I think 8 gig kit, that's 2 by 4 gigabytes. I think it's about 30 to 50 bucks depending on where you buy it from. They're really cheap and definitely worth it if you're into memory overclocking. The thing is, I'm kind of anal about my builds. I overclock every bit of a system. CPU, kill me now. CPU, GPU, memory, and even the integrated GPU if the processor have it, like the HD4000. I even overclock that just for the fun of it. But yeah, this has been quite long and I'm parched. I need to answer the goddamn phone, see the beautiful text that random people sent me with funny pictures and whatnot. So the next part will probably be me going over and unboxing each and every product that I've bought, so you guys can take a look at them, even though there are tons of pictures out there, so you shouldn't watch my videos anyway. But thank you for watching, and I'll see you soon. Bye.